Technology's all set. That's good. Thank you, Lenny. Welcome tonight to the Town of Mount Pleasant Planning Board meeting, regularly scheduled for June 5th, 2025, 7:30 p.m. We have one business item, three categories. Business items, continuing applications, and new applications. We don't have any public hearings here. First up are business items. And if there's draft memorandum or agenda on the front table if anybody would like to see it and follow along with us. Business item, acceptance of minutes drafted from 5/1/2025 and 5/19/2025 planning board meeting. Any comments or questions on the minutes drafted? So with that being said, let's do one at a time. What was the pleasure of the board for 5/1/2025?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion from Joan.
Second.
Second from Eileen. Walter.
Aye.
Jean.
Aye.
Joan.
Aye.
Eileen.
Aye.
And an aye from me. Next up, 5/19/2025.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Joan.
Second.
Second by Eileen. Walter.
Aye.
Jean.
Aye.
Joan.
Aye.
Eileen.
Aye.
And me. Aye. Okay. Next up, request for a 90-day extension of the subdivision resolution of approval for number SD 23-03 from the Kensico Preserve, 162 age restricted multifamily townhouse development on the parcel previously approved for the Kensico Preserve residential subdivision, previously known as Baker, which lies between Columbus Avenue and Westlake Drive in Thornwood, SBL 112.16-1-1. Owner Legions of Christ, contract Vendi Toll Brothers Incorporated. Okay, what's going on with this? They're getting their ducks in a row still?
They are. I thought there was a representative here. I guess not. Yes. So they're finalizing the conditions of approval. Excuse me. If you remember, there were a dozen conditions of approval. Most notably, the delay is with the health department.
Okay. Any what's the thoughts on the on this particular item on the
And
agenda?
the request is a 90-day extension.
Yep.
Make a motion, we grant a 90-day extension.
Motion by Joan.
Second.
Second by Jane. Walter.
Aye.
Jane.
Aye.
Joan. Eileen.
Aye.
And aye from me. Finally, the last one is third request for a 1-year extension of site plan resolution approval SP 22-02 for the construction of 10 faculty housing units with single-car driveways phase 2 at the EF Academy, 582 Columbus Avenue, Thornwood, New York, 112.12-1-12. That I got to double click into 1-year extension versus that's a 1-year extension.
It is. It's a site plan, so that's typically a 1-year extension as opposed to the 90 days for subdivisions.
Because I almost, to be honest, this seems like such a long time ago we did this.
It was a year ago.
Yeah, it was a year ago. So but do you know what's going on? I'm sorry.
Same thing, conditions of approval. They are also Shauna Williams or Shauna. Oh, okay. I believe their applicant is here.
Oh, yeah, can you come on up? Just state your name and all that for the record.
My name is Allison Fauster. I'm an associate attorney with the law firm Cuddy and Fader representing EF Academy. So this is going to be the third 1-year extension. The reason behind that is since this was approved in 2022, we have faced some uncertainty in the market of visas, and it is an international student school, so we want to make sure we have more certainty in the market. We can bring students in to build out the second phase. The first phase has been fully built out. It's very successful. It's very popular with faculty members, so we are committed to doing the second phase, but we just need a little bit more certainty, and we'll definitely move forward with it in the future.
More of a question about your population and your students
Yes.
versus the problems that we're dealing with for the site itself, with getting
Correct.
things organized. So you may, it sounds like you will do it, but you may not do it.
Well, we're committed to doing it as long as we can make sure we have that market in place, but as far as financing go, that's certainly set up, and we're committed to moving forward with it. We just need a little bit more time.
Okay. Any questions or comments from board members? Okay, thank you.
I can't hear.
The mic.
Sorry, the microphone's not. Is that on?
Okay, so Lenny, can you just check the mic?
Yeah.
Can you just, Lenny, just see if it's
Check 1, 2.
Yeah.
Speak up a little bit.
Yeah, no, just take the mic, just take the mic off, see if that helps.
Is that better?
You have to hold it near you.
Very close. Ooh, a little bit of feedback there. From the top, I guess?
Yeah, just high level.
Sure. So this is going to
Is that
be,
by the way? So you guys gotta move out.
okay, well, that's the, yeah.
Because the mic's not going back, so the only solution I have is move up.
Is this better? A little bit.
Thank you.
From the
One more
top.
time, okay.
One more time. For the record, my name is Allison Fauser with the law firm Cuddy and Fader, appearing on behalf of EF Academy. This is related to the site plan approval for the second phase of faculty housing. This would be our third one-year extension. The reasons for the extension is that the market for student visas has been very uncertain and continues to be uncertain. We're waiting for more feedback and more favorable policies so we get a better understanding of the student visas and we bring more students on so we can justify building out the second phase. The first phase was very successful. It's very popular. The international faculty members who utilize it are very happy with it. So EF has expressed to me that they're very committed to moving forward with the second phase, but for the reasons I've detailed tonight, there's a little bit of uncertainty.
Yeah, if you didn't hear, I feel like our mic is not helping us today. But from what I understand, the CF Academy on Columbus Avenue, and they had an approval from several years ago, 2 years ago, and they are judging market demand, basically, how many students are going to be coming to determine whether or not they should have the housing built or not. They are committed to it, but at this point, they're judging the population of the
And making sure they can have students come and get their visas renewed and stay at the school itself. Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, any final questions, Council Board members?
I don't know.
Okay, with that being said, what is the pleasure of the board for this?
I make a motion that we approve the one-year extension of the site plan approval.
Motion by Eileen,
Second.
second by, I think, Joan. Walter?
Aye.
Jean? Joan? Eileen?
Aye.
And I for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Next up is continuing applications. What does that mean? That's an application that's not really ready for the public, but they want to make a presentation to the board about where they are and what they're doing and what they're thinking about. So let's get this show rolling. This is number one. If you want an agenda, it's up on the front table again one more time. 95 Bradhurst, Whitedale Children's Hospital, three-phase improvement plan, including expansion for long-term care, park and deck, improvements to site utilities and infrastructure. Application to site plan SP 25-02, location 95 Bradhurst Avenue, Valhalla, New York. Section block number is 170.17-1-2. Zone R20. Owner applicant, Whitedale Children's Hospital, engineer, architect, Colliers, E4H Architectural. Now, with this not being a public hearing, I still want the public to be able to see this, so we make sure we can position it so the public can see and make sure, and I have to make sure that you're heard. So,
Sure.
So you may want to clip that mic if it's helpful.
Being heard, Mr. Chairman, has never been a problem for me.
Oh, okay. Well, I know it wasn't for my predecessor.
I'm the youngest child in the family, so I had to speak up if I wanted attention.
So you may want to clip the mic if that helps. Can you guys hear in the front?
No, we don't hear very well at all.
Okay, you'll see this fine. Can you see that over there?
Well, there's nothing on it.
Why don't you turn the TV off? And once you're plugged onto your...
1 second, we'll make sure we get this organized. All right, I want to make sure people can see. My apologies, we'll just
That's
get
okay.
this organized. All right, and now our technical people will get the stuff set up.
Maybe.
Right.
This is where I'm not good, because my predecessor would have a good line or two of jokes, but I'm just not equipped.
You need to quote David Brooks.
Yes.
Yes.
And I have to change the zip code.
What's going on with this?
Okay.
Does it matter? Well, it's cable, you gotta
Oh,
change the input.
I know, that's what we should change it. Yep. It's registering as outputting to this.
All right, so, usually the last thing you have to do is put the TV on.
Input. Is it just me? Go to home.
Sorry, you said it's not a public hearing?
Go
It's to- not.
We do not get to speak?
not tonight. You will absolutely get a public hearing and or more, depending on what the decision of the board is. But tonight is preparing the application for the public hearing. So we're looking to dot the i's, cross the t's. And there's like a lot of paperwork and logistics that have to happen. And we're going to tell them at some point, you're ready to go or not ready to go to present to the public. We'll provide our own input here as well tonight as well. We did receive a lot of email correspondence. Some of it was very compelling and interesting. So we will definitely speak to that as well. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to say my 2 cents today, but.
You,
okay.
and honestly, I want to make sure you understand, we will make sure that everybody understands when the public hearing is. There will be notices put out, there will be signs put up.
Source.
If you're an
Yeah.
adjoining property owner, yes.
But
You will,
those signs weren't clear that were posted. Very, not clear at all.
what, for which one?
They posted two signs in front, and they were not very clear at all what
For
tonight was.
For tonight?
Correct.
Tonight's not a public hearing, there was no need to post signs.
But they
So,
posted, so it got a lot of.
There is.
what's that?
We are required to post signs.
Oh, you are?
Yes. So there's a new,
Well, she actually didn't say anything just yet, just 1 second.
there's a new
Notification.
notification
law. You have to put up a
requirement
sign.
that the town board
Oh.
adopted. So sign posting is required,
Okay,
and those signs are actually prepared by the town. We retrieve them, we post them.
all right, so I'm not going to worry, I have ideas about how to make sure everybody in the community knows. So we'll make sure that happens. We'll get into that conversation later on. We're not going to leave anybody off the notification methodology that we're going to come up with. So with that being said, we're going to try our best to speak to the application.
1, 2, check 1, 2.
With this.
Check 1, 2, 1, 2.
Try again.
Check, check, check. That's better?
I don't know if it's loud enough.
I don't think it is loud enough.
Hello? Hello? There's a lot of static, right?
It's a little less staticky, yeah. All right, we'll do the best we can based on what we have.
Okay. So I will do the best that I can, Mr. Chairman. I will try to speak up.
That's better, right? Yeah, it is better. Okay.
So for the record, my name is Janet Garris. I'm a partner with Del Bello, Donnell, and Weingarten, Wise and Whitaker here this evening on behalf of Blythedale Children's Hospital. As you know, we were before you back in April where we introduced our application to you for site plan approval for modifications to the property. At that time, we made a full presentation to the board. We also received comments from the board and from your consultant. Subsequent to that meeting, we revised some plans and we made a submission to the board in response to those comments, and that's what we'd like to go over with you this evening. Since we were here, we have been working with the town's building official to determine which variances are necessary for the property. As you know, Mr. Cleary wrote in his memo that there were a number of variances, and we are just confirming them with the building official. So we have been working with him, and we await his determination. So I don't know if you'd like us to go through each of Mr. Cleary's comments one by one. I'm not sure that that's necessary. I think that there are a number of comments that resulted in some modifications to the plans, and I think that those are the things we'd like to speak to this evening. And then, at your pleasure, Mr. Chairman, we can answer.
If you don't mind, may you just interpret that for the public who's here? Even though it's not a public hearing, I want to make sure they understand. So our consultant who's sitting right in front of you gave the applicant, which is Blythedale, and their representatives, a series of things they need to think about. They're going to go through those items tonight, and they're going to go focus on some of the more salient ones at this point. So that's what we're doing at this point. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. So Mr. Cleary's memo, as I mentioned, referenced a number of variances that we anticipate we will need for the property. As I mentioned, we are working with the town's building inspector, who is the official interpreter of your code, to determine those variances. And once we have that determination, we will share them with you as well. And at some point in time, we hope you will send us to the Zoning Board of Appeals for our application to them for those area variances. And they are all area variances. So I think that as I mentioned, we can go through those items which resulted in modifications to the plans. Specifically, we were asked about landscaping and screening for the project. So we submitted a revised landscaping plan to you as part of our submission on May 15th. Subsequent to that, we've managed to make some additional improvements to that plan, and our civil engineer would be happy to walk you through the modifications to that plan. I think what I'd like to do, just, Mr. Chairman, is give you an overview and then have our consulting team go through each of their individual items so that you can see what they are. In addition to that, there were some comments related to the proposed parking structure and dimensioning those particular parking spaces that are in that parking structure. That plan was revised to respond to that comment, having to do with size of parking spaces, aisle width, all of those things are dimensioned now. We are waiting for an interpretation from the building official with regard to some of the sizes of those spaces. So they are 9 by 19. A standard space is typically 9 by 18. Your definition of parking space in the zoning code calls for 9 by 20, which is larger than standard size. So we're waiting for that interpretation, and we will get back to you on that, but we can show you that modification as well. In addition to that, there was a comment that a stormwater pollution prevention plan, a SWIP, be submitted as part of the application. The SWIP has been revised and submitted as part of your submission tonight. We are desperately waiting for comments from your town engineer with regard to the submission that we originally made back in December, and then with the modifications that we submitted in May. So we are hopeful that a memo will be forthcoming from him in the next week or so, and then we will respond to any comments that we receive from him. In addition, there was a comment with regard to lighting and photometric plans. So the lighting and photometric plans have now been submitted to you, and our consultants can go through that with you. And then, in addition, there was a comment with regard to green building and sustainability. There are significant sustainable design initiatives for this project, which are detailed in a memo from our project architect, and we can go through those with you. There's one modification that we made to the plan, and we can share that with you, is when we initially submitted our application, we proposed that there would be solar panels atop the parking structure. As we've been studying that a little bit further, we've determined that they're not feasible at this time, so we are removing that as part of the application, and so we can speak to that. So with that, we'd like to show you some of the details that I just mentioned.
And I guess we can probably start with the landscaping and the screening. And our civil engineer, Mike Finan from Langen, will speak to
Thank you.
us.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Mike Finan. I'm with the firm Langen Engineering. I'm a licensed professional engineer, not a landscape architect, but I oversee our landscape architecture team. So what you saw on the prior plan, if you recall, was a single line of landscaping along the north side of the parking deck. We took some feedback that we got from the landowner and obviously things that we've heard from the town. And we went and looked at this in more detail in the field and looked at the existing vegetation as it has now developed, given that we're in a different time of year than when we first developed our plan. And we've split that single row into essentially 2 rows, which you can see there on the north side of the plan. What that does is, this is a mix of evergreens, deciduous trees, ornamental trees, and grasses, things of that nature, that stay forever green for the most part. And the stuff that's closer to the lot line, obviously, as you're the visible person looking from the adjoining property, something closer to you will block your view a lot better than something further away. So we went and decided to tier these 2 layers of landscaping, one close to the lot line and one closer to the structure. And like I said, what that does is it gives you a visual effect of screening in tiers. But the landscaping is evergreen and will stay forever green even when in leaf-off conditions. It will also survive. It has plenty of sun. We went out and looked at that. The stuff that's closer underneath the existing overstory will still survive. But again, like I said, in the winter time, it'll provide that buffering, screening, while the other trees have the leaves off. That's the major change. There was some comments, I think, that Mr. Cleary provided to us in comment, which was making sure that we meet all of the percentage coverage requirements for landscaping on the site. We provide all those calculations. All that's been put on the plan. So, you know, if there's additional comments, we can address them, but I don't think they're worth talking about now. We do meet them, so that's good, and I think we provided and demonstrate that on the plans. The other question was on the south side of the property. We had some landscaping near the south entrance. The question was about site distance, whether we were impeding site views with that landscaping, and we demonstrate that we're not. So that's the plan of landscaping. If you have any questions, happy to answer it.
Any questions? Is there somebody speaking?
Oh.
I heard some.
I heard something too, but
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a question.
Oh, in the back. Can you, we're in a meeting. Can you just not talk on the phone? Thank you. Okay, so any questions or comments from board members on the landscape plan? And we will have questions, but for now, I think we can go to the next topic, whatever that is.
What do you want to cover next, Janet?
Yes.
So one of
Yeah.
the other things I just want to add is that we are also in the process of preparing a rendering, which will demonstrate what that landscaping will look like against that parking structure. So it's not quite ready yet, but we will get it to you.
Okay, thank
right?
you.
I don't know, did you?
I mean, we could talk about the parking space dimensions, but I don't know how critical.
No, I don't think that's necessary. Lighting, photometric,
That's
did
not
you
me.
do?
No.
That's
Can we
Jennifer.
clarify what he's talking about these landscaping? You're saying the north side of the building, is that up on my property line?
Yeah, yes, exactly, on page right.
Right, because I live on 5 Leeson Lane, that's my house right there.
This is this side, yeah,
So, right, so you're gonna put trees lining the whole property line?
along the property. This is the property.
Yeah, so everything that's shown there in dark, different various shapes, is additional landscaping. We're adding about 85 additional plantings, and that's an addition of about 28 since the last plan we submitted. So significant amount of planting along that area.
Okay. Okay, and there's going to be a lot of questions about your landscaping plan, especially when we start
expect
opening
it.
up for the public hearing.
Yeah, for sure.
So there will be plenty of time to dig into the details, and the public hearing may or may not be one and done. It could be many meetings, it could be one, but we're going to definitely dig into the details. What we're doing tonight here is we are not approving of this application tonight. We are here to see, are they ready to talk to the public at some point in the future, yes or no? So,
Great. And I guess while I'm here, I'll just touch on the stormwater management plan. I know Janet said, just clarify one thing she said. We had submitted a SWIP, stormwater pollution prevention plan with our initial application. We didn't really modify it, hasn't changed since the original submission. It's just that it was pending a review. And as we're obligated to do, we're meeting our pre and post development flow rates. So any stormwater runoff that hits the site today and leaving the site today will be the same or less at the end of the day. And we're putting in subsurface, what we call Coltech or plastic chambers that take in that water, treat it, infiltrate it back into the ground to mimic pre-development conditions. Both developments, we said this was in phases. We got the parking deck and the building addition on the south side. They're independent systems, so they can be constructed independently, and we designed it purposely that way. And our SWIP does identify that as well. So regardless of the outcome and how it goes forward, either project could be done independently of each other.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
One question.
How high does that deck go? Stories, feet, how high? Is there a number?
Yeah, can we just answer that one question?
Then what's the total height of the deck, top side of the deck?
It's approximately 12 feet above the existing surface parking lot now. It's one level.
All right, come on up.
Sure.
Yeah, I know.
Hi, I'm Tim Tracy from Desmond. We're the architect and engineers for the parking structure. So just to respond to the question that was asked from the audience, it's a one-level deck. So from the existing parking surface that exists today to the next parking level, it's 11 feet, and then there's a 3'6" spandrel above that. So we're roughly 14.6 from the existing parking slab or the parking surface parking area to the top of the spandrel.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and just to remind you guys, and this is just a general call out, this is not a public hearing. We are here to review the application to see where we are with the application. The application is presenting an idea to us. Is anything available to the town in town hall for this application at this point?
The full application's available.
The full application is also available in town hall, so we need to go through this process tonight of just going through the I's and crossing the T's. So if you also want to go into town hall and see anything related to this application, it is 100% there available. This will positively be a robust public hearing, so we know that's going to come, but we have to make sure that it's ready to talk to you. And I don't know if it is or is not at this point. We'll go through the process tonight. So please bear with us. I know the process can be a little bit long and lengthy, and I also know that you're eager to get your comments out. We definitely positively read the comments that came out through the email correspondence. I've seen every single one of them, and I've processed every single one of them. So thank you for your patience as we go through this process one more time.
So another thing that I mentioned is that we included a lighting and photometric plan with our revised materials. Those lighting fixtures have been designed for dark sky compliance. Tim can speak to those as well, right?
Yeah, so there was a comment that came back that there was no rooftop lighting plan. And from the prior application, there was consideration for solar, so it would have been deck lights as opposed to pole-mounted fixtures. So the current plan, which has been submitted with the revised submittal to the town, includes a rooftop illumination plan. So it shows 4 fixtures, pole-mounted fixtures with a mounting height of 20 feet above the center spandrel wall. They're inset roughly 60 feet from the perimeter of the structure, and that's what's necessary in order to get the appropriate cast of light on the deck to meet industry standard by the IES.
And what is the guidance or the thought around how far the light goes off around the property?
So there's a number of things that are done. It's based on fixture type, the light source, as well as mounting height. And so depending, the higher the fixture is mounted above the slab, the greater the light will be cast. So we looked at a balance of mounting height versus number of fixtures or number of light sources. the lower the pole height, more light sources would be required in order to get the necessary illumination on the roof level. So we looked at a number of different scenarios, and we found that the most efficient and, in our opinion, the best way of containing the light within the footprint of the structure was to locate 4 light sources along the center line of the deck, and which is shown here. You can see there's one on column line 2, one on column line 3, one on column line 5, and one on column line 6. So they're minimally 60 to 50 feet inset from the perimeter. And they'll cast, and there's cutoff shields, so the light source at the fixture would be greatest, and as you go to the perimeter of the structure, the illumination level will decrease.
So here's my thing. I'm not going to get into too many details tonight, but we will, because I want to make sure that we make sure positively 150% that neighboring property owners are not subjected to light that they shouldn't see. I also want to understand, and we don't have to get into too much detail tonight, do the lights go 24/7, or are they going to some hours?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Since you have less staff at night,
Right.
and you would need to light that, do you even need to light the top deck? Is there sufficient parking on the lower level and the other parking lots that you wouldn't need to even light the top deck? Oh.
So we're gonna.
I'm sorry, but who
Hi,
are you?
I'm Dan Paisano, JLL Owner's Representative
Thank
for
you.
Blythedale Children's Hospital.
Thank you.
So we are actually controlling the access, or planning to control the access to the top side of the deck through a gate that would be a badge system that's only accessible by employees. And we're determining right now the hours of that access. We don't know right now if it'll be at night, but in the wintertime it does get dark pretty early, and our employees will be parking there in the morning time, and then would have to leave at night, so we would need light to some extent. To be determined on exactly the hours of access to the top side, but we are looking at that, and we
So
are
that's-
planning to do so.
That's going to be one of the things that we need to iron out before we have a public hearing. I think we need to make sure we understand, we need to understand like the impact of lighting and all of that before, or at least when we have the public hearing, we need to know when those lights are on, when they're off, the impact, how far they go, how far they don't go.
I could speak a little bit in terms of the casting. So at the north edge, which this is plan right, the north side. So F3 is the closest fixture, if you will, on the north side of the roof level of the deck. So at the light source, we're at 2.7 foot candles. By the time we get to the edge of the deck, we're at 1.4, so we've got a 50% reduction. So by the time we get another, 50 feet, the light source effectively will be 0.
Okay, just anticipate a lot of comments and questions on the
Sure.
lighting. Okay, so
Just, I have a question. You mentioned this foot candles, and the public probably doesn't understand, the intensity of foot
Yep.
candles. So, a city street lamp.
Yeah, so
What kind of foot candle is that? So they have an idea what you're talking about.
So we're basically trying to replicate the light levels that would be similar to what it's in the parking lot currently. In the garage, on the lower level, the light levels are a little bit higher because you're effectively enclosed, you're within a building, so they are generally about 2 times higher than the roof level. But the roof level, I would say, you're trying to be consistent and match what you would expect in a surface parking lot. So in the balance of the parking areas, the light levels on the deck level, the roof level will be similar in terms of intensity. And again, this design does not, will not extend or will not produce any light levels at the property line. It's really only areas where there's cars and pedestrians.
Any other questions or comments from board members on this topic?
I have 2, but not about lighting.
Okay. I don't know if you need,
Parking
Janet?
deck questions?
Parking number, don't quote me on the number of parking spaces, but 225 are required and you're proposing 487. Why so many parking spaces?
That's
Oh, somebody else.
probably not for me.
Yeah.
Good evening. Rich D'Andrea, Colliers Engineering and Design, traffic and parking consultant for the project. So as far as the number of spaces go, what we did to assess the number of spaces that are needed on the site, we did parking utilization counts of the actual facility last February to determine how many spaces are being utilized right now. That includes there's valet parking on the site and all the stripe spaces. We took that and based on what we know is going to be added for need for the future expansion, kind of assess what the number of parking spaces we need are to accommodate all the employees, visitors, and we came up with I'm sorry.
So there's
I
a
forget.
high utilization rate now.
There's a high utilization rate right now. I think right now we're in excess of what we need for code requirement.
Right.
And we anticipate a continued high utilization in the future, but we're providing that parking for all the employees and to kind of offset some of the
Change of
valet
shift.
parking that's being done and change of shift and all that, yes.
Okay, I have another question, not for you.
Okay. Is it traffic related? 'Cause-
No,
okay.
no, not traffic related. Okay. So right now, I think I read that there are 24 beds in the hospital, and you're going to add 44. So you're almost tripling the number of patients. The addition that you're building is for the beds, obviously, but when I did a tour of the property, there was a school there were medical facilities. Is there any expansion proposed for that? What accommodations are being made or adjustments to account for the increased residency there?
Great. So John Flanagan, Chief Operating Officer for Blythedale Children's Hospital. So just to clarify, we have more than 24 beds currently. We have 94 beds on our acute care side. So that's our Article 28 hospital. We have 24 beds that are licensed as a residential healthcare facility, so pediatric nursing home. So this project is expanding the residential healthcare facility, so the pediatric nursing home, from 24 to 68. So a net add of 44 beds for that program. But currently, today, we also have the other 94 beds.
Okay, and but will you need to expand the school or the healthcare or the athletic area? What?
Yeah, as part of the expansion, the new building will accommodate some school space and the therapeutic space that we need to support those children.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I think there's a few more topics we have to cover. Anything else we can dig into?
So I think we wanted to also talk to you about sustainability and our project architect.
Okay. Come on up to the mic, and don't be shy. You can grab the mic if you need to.
Hopefully I won't need to. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Jennifer Arbuckle, I'm the architect from E4H, Environments for Health Architecture. So we've already talked about a number of sustainability initiatives that are part of this project. We talked about the stormwater, the landscaping. One of the things I think that Mike mentioned about landscaping is trying to use native varieties and, local and reusing the existing vegetation that's already on the site. Excuse me. We talked about the exterior site lighting already. So from the architectural perspective, the building's exterior envelope will be designed to exceed the minimum standards of the New York State Energy Code. We have to meet the minimum standards, but we try to design beyond that. So that will include looking at what we choose for building insulation for the foundations, walls, and roof, as well as selecting exterior windows that are thermally broken with a low E coating. All of that goes to saving energy within the building if the envelope is very tight. On the interior of the building, we're going to choose green building finishes, which promotes, obviously, the health and well-being of the staff and the residents and patients within the building. We also have to choose materials that will stand up to a 24/7 institution, obviously. But there's a wide variety of really great finishes nowadays that will do that. So this could be everything from choosing low VOC paints, which limits off-gassing, to using rubber floors, which is a renewable resource. Rubber is a renewable material. We will have a list of those materials available, obviously, for anyone who's interested as we go through and select and install those finishes. Interior light we talked about exterior light fixtures, but interior light fixtures will be LED light fixtures, which have a much longer life expectancy and reduces energy usage over time. We also have designed the building in such a way to make sure that we are using as much daylight as possible. All the corridors, daylight at the end. We're using as much natural lighting as possible so that we can reduce the amount of interior light fixtures we have to provide. The other lighting feature that will be included it's a standard course now to use occupancy sensors so that if no one's in a room, the lights go off. If someone comes in, they go on. That also reduces the amount of light and energy that's used over time. So the project, the other big piece of the sustainability initiatives are for the mechanical electrical systems. New York State has significant electrification goals, and so we're working through as we select those systems to make sure that the building will be able to meet as many of those requirements as possible. We're working with NYSERDA and Con Ed as we go through that selection of those systems. The other things, sorry, let me get to my second page here. Oops, there we go. The other feature that we have a green roof terrace that we're trying to include on the new higher level. This would be on top of the existing roof, so that will reduce some of the heat island effect that's existing now on the property. It also provides a nice space for families and residents to access the exterior without having to go down through the building and outdoors. And I think we talked about the solar changes to the solar array, and we are intending to provide the ability to have electric vehicle charging stations on the project. So there's a lot of standards that one can use to measure sustainability. So LEED certification is a very common one that most people are familiar with. I don't know that we've decided for sure that we're going to pursue LEED certification, but we use that as a baseline guideline as we're designing the building to make sure that we're meeting the minimum requirements of LEED, which helps gives us a checklist to look at as we're going through the design process.
When will you know what level of LEED certification you're going to be going for?
So we design to the minimum of certification, and the next level is silver. Typically, we're designing to a silver level automatically. Most of the systems that we end up selecting and choosing as part of the design process get us to that point very easily because the energy use requirements for hospitals are fairly stringent.
But when will you know? When will you have an idea?
So we're going to design to that no matter what. Whether we pursue the actual certification from the Green Building Council is a separate owner decision to be made. We're going to design to it, but pursuing the certification is a separate thing to get a plaque.
Understood. Thank you very much.
But we'll also be designing to Energy Star Green Building certification
Okay,
levels.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
One question.
Yeah, of course.
The generator that's now there will be adequate to handle the additions?
The generator actually is proposed to be replaced as part of this project because it's approaching 20 years since it was installed, and it does need to be upgraded a little bit as part of this project. And so
it'll have greater capacity?
Yes, to make sure that we've got the existing and the new building areas covered as needed. Yeah.
So we would need to understand that at some point. Whatever we're doing for a generator, we would need to understand the size and all of that good stuff.
I think it's in the application.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Anything else?
No, I think that those are the most significant modifications that we made to the application since we were before you in April. As I mentioned, we do have our entire consulting team here to answer any additional questions you might have. As I mentioned, we do look forward to
completing our review with the building official with regard to the variances. We also look forward to receiving comments from your town engineers so that we can be sure and respond to those.
Okay, so the big topic is obviously traffic. Can we speak to that? Like, what is the plan for traffic mitigation and measures? And we've seen comments from the community and about the amount of traffic that's there today, and about, you know, it's a busy spot.
Rich can speak to that.
So, yes, it is a busy spot, and we're very aware of that. Obviously, the intersection of Grasslands Road and Bradhurst has been an issue for a while. There are delays there during peak hours that we are very much aware of. As far as what we're recommending as part of the project, reality is that the traffic that the new beds from the expansion are the additional traffic that's going to be generated from those is an incremental increase. It's not considered a very significant increase. We're talking 30 to 40 trips in the peak hours, which in reality is kind of considered not needing even a further analysis. But we know that there's issues on this corridor, so we did do a full traffic study.
And when was that traffic study done?
Traffic study, the traffic counts were collected last February. We did take into account several other projects in the vicinity of this area that we knew were on the books, and that traffic is considered in there. And we projected out to a future design year to count for other growth that we may not have been aware of. And so we have what we think is a very representative database of traffic volumes for existing and future. And then to get into just what we're recommending as far as mitigation, we know that the southerly access driveway is somewhat of a difficult driveway to get into and out of. So one of the things we're recommending was looking at restricting some left turn movements there and putting in a do not block the box to make the movements into and out of a little bit cleaner, a little bit easier. That's not really going to change the operation at the intersection. That's a known issue that we can't really change. Some other things, we're looking at sight distance of the driveway is because there is some existing vegetation that needs to be cleaned up. The bus stop at the northerly driveway, the sign is currently located on the opposite side of the driveway from where the actual landing area and sidewalk is located. We're sort of recommending relocating that. And other than that, there wasn't much else that we were recommending. But again, it's an incremental increase that we don't really believe that we're the cause of the traffic conditions on the roadway. Obviously, we contribute to them, but there's a lot of other traffic in this area that is causing some of the issues.
Okay. All right. Any questions or comments from board members on the traffic study? I have a couple thoughts, but we'll hold off for a second.
I have one quick one. Also consider traffic impacts related to construction. And I saw that there would be many truckloads of fill brought off of the site. And I think those should be timed to not conflict with the heavy traffic times.
Yeah, we can. I think
construction management plan or something.
Right. Yeah, and I think we mentioned in our study that there needs to be a well thought out construction management plan, especially relating to parking on the site as well. Yeah. Right. So that's something that would have to will be thought out as we go along. But
early comment.
Yeah, understood.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes. Why aren't you seriously considering an entrance in Grassland?
To Grassland?
From Grassland.
An entrance from Grassland?
Yes.
So I think we had mentioned last time we were here that there are some grading challenges to get out to Grassland. The other thing that I see just in my experience is the proximity of that between the intersection from Bradhurst to the ramp that gets onto the Springbrook Parkway there is a tight area, and my feeling is it's unlikely that DOT would even consider allowing that in that location. The other thing that we're looking into and trying to understand is I have a feeling there's probably a section of that at least that is what's called without access, meaning we don't have the right to cross the right-of-way in that area to get an access, so we're looking into that, and we'll provide more information once we know one way or the other. But there are some challenges there with trying to get access.
But in the engineering world, the word can't is never used. It always can be figured out and performed. It may cost money, but challenges are always overcome. And I don't think you guys have done your due diligence to answer these questions. The public is greatly concerned about the traffic in that area. And if this is a method that can help relieve some of it, that this board member strongly believes that you should be considering it and taking this as far as it will go.
We're looking into it. We'll look at it further, and we'll provide more information once we have
You have
it.
to come back with all your points that you mentioned, if and when, that they all have to be addressed. For when we do get to a public hearing, this is all going to come up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we also saw the public comments, and we saw that these same comments were in there, so.
I don't think your grade change is that significant to overcome. I've been there from grassland down to the parking lot is not significant.
Okay. Well, like I said, we'll take a further look at it, and the other items that I mentioned too are definitely a part of that, so.
Any other questions or comments? I will echo Walter's comments. I mean, what I heard was, we think and we're not sure about the DOT. Let's find out. Let's find out for sure what we can or cannot do on that spot. And I'm not sure what their response is going to be, but I've seen access onto that road elsewhere, on Grasslands Road.
Understood. I think it's just that segment could be a concern for them, but.
Okay. All right. Anything else for traffic? I do think traffic is a bigger conversation. I think it's probably the biggest conversation for that area and for the community. I'm well aware of that fact. I also think, as one board member, that we may want to think about having an independent traffic consultant review the site at the appropriate times of year, considering schools, WCC. Hold on, folks. Hold on, let me just finish my thought. I won't remember anything. It has to be done at a time when the traffic is highest, which I would anticipate would be done in school time, September, whatever that time frame is most appropriate. But I think we have to have a traffic consultant to compare and contrast from the traffic consultant that the applicant has used.
The only thing I would just add, as far as the time of the study, so we did do our counts in February. Schools were in session. There was no vacations going on when we did our traffic counts.
I think you said February last year. Did you say that?
February 2024. Yeah, I don't remember the exact dates off the top of my head. February 8th and 10th, so Thursday and Saturday.
Yeah. So
but I would just say that's not the only data that we relied on. We had other data from prior studies and from New York State Department of Transportation that we looked at to identify what we think the existing traffic volumes are. So we believe we have a good representative case of the traffic volume.
I understand you got years of training and expertise in the business, but I think from our perspective, I think it would be good to have a contrast and look at it from two different lenses to see if it matches up.
I'm not saying that doesn't make sense. I'm just saying.
So no. I'm just acknowledging that you I'm sure have an abundance of experience and expertise, but let's balance it out with somebody that the town can also leverage, and we can compare and contrast both traffic studies. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions or comments on this? No. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I think that concludes our presentation for this evening. Again, we're waiting for engineering, and we hope to be back before you shortly.
Okay, so again, we're not taking a public comment. I want to set expectations for the public. So this means really not a whole lot tonight. So they have work to do, correct? And they have to dot their I's and cross the T's and make sure those ducks are in a row before they're even going to come back to us. The town staff will not even let them come back to us until they get those things together. So that's the zoning conversation. The traffic study needs to get done. All these things need to get done before they come back to us. So I don't anticipate in the next few months that's going to happen, I'm going to assume.
We're hopeful it will be sooner than that.
Oh, okay. All right, that's good and ambitious. All right, we'll see where we go. I will also say, if you come back to us, the process to make sure the community is notified, we have to make sure that's dotted and the I's are dotted. I almost said the inverse, the T's I and whatever, I's dotted. You know what I mean? How do we make sure that the public is engaged on this one?
Well, there is a sign posting requirement, and that sign has been, those signs have been posted. They were posted for this evening, and for any subsequent meeting that we are on the agenda for, we will need to include those dates
Yeah,
on
I
the
keep
sign.
that up because I know it's a new law. And I thank you for, that's a newer law, correct? So when they come back to us, there is going to be another sign in front of the house, in front of the building.
3 of them.
3 of them. So we'll make sure those signs are up. That's what the town staff does. And anything else, Pat?
We can also, because we have some folks sitting right behind me that are very engaged in the process, we can get some email addresses and we can certainly notify folks.
We can certainly do that. Yes, we can certainly do that. But else, let me just finish my one thought, then just one comment. But I also well aware of the fact we can't spend 15 minutes getting email addresses here tonight either, because we have another applicant behind us. So if you want to be the 1 or 2 people who give Caroline the email address, and then you can disseminate. But I can't spend all night watching a line of people giving email addresses either. So Caroline, you have ways to facilitate that?
Been facilitated.
All right, thank you very much. Get your email address to Caroline, and we'll make sure we've captured them, and then we'll make sure that we notify you when they come back. But I will say, aside from all that, the school does wonderful work with kids, and I think, and that was reflected in some of the comments that came back from the community, that they acknowledge that the school does wonderful work with the children. So it's touching to see such a unique school.
The hospital and school.
This hospital and school, excuse me. Anyway, that's it for me. Anything else for anybody else? I don't think so. No. So we're good to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Can I just make one
Oh, I'm
comment?
sorry, yes.
That's okay. When we want to put up a shed in our backyard, we have to send mail letters to all the neighboring homes. So why are we not getting mail and letters about this when it happens?
I'll answer that one question. When there's a public hearing, the law is the adjoining property owners have to be notified. And that process, which will happen when the public hearing happens.
You'll receive a letter when the public hearing.
A letter. Okay, I
Yes.
just wanted to make sure.
It's, I think, properties within 200 feet of the project site? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
All right, folks, okay, we have another application up. It's 45 Columbia Avenue, proposed demolition of the existing structure and the construction of a new 8-unit apartment building with rooftop amenities. Application site plan SP 24-5, location 45 Columbia Avenue, Thornwood, section block number is 106.8-1-29, zone TH Thornwood Hamlet Zone, owner Ding and Don Properties LLC, applicant and architect Adra Monier Lighthouse LLC, engineer Gregory Caccio Poli, and Aldo is here, or Mr. Victigliano.
Good evening. It's been a while since we've been before you. We've made some major changes to the design and what's being proposed. We got comments kind of late today for it, and there's some things that need to be corrected in the comments, so I think it's best if we take you through what we have, okay? We can address some of the comments, how they have been corrected already. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Adra Munier. We also have Greg Gacciopoli, who is our engineer, if there are any questions on that. But we'll have Adra start off.
Hi, good evening. My name is Audra Monier. I work for Lighthouse. We were here last time with a much larger building, so today we want to go through some of the changes that we've made and how we've modified the building in conjunction with the comments that we got from the last planning board meeting. So we were here previously with a much larger building that had a variance of a third floor of an additional floor, which we have now since removed. We've scaled down the heights of the building. We are still proposing ground parking, but we are creating a 50% pervious facade on each side of the parking with planting in the frontage of each one. The building itself still carries the apartments on the second and third floor. The second floor is going to be 3 units, and then we have an additional 3 units on the third floor, which totals to a 6-unit building. So we've considerably scaled down the unit amount. Our lobby still remains on the first floor behind the parking. We are requesting the possibility to use the variance of the easement as a pervious surface, along with just a path to allow the residents to walk outside of the parking area to get into the building. Within the building, we are still providing in-unit washer dryer. We are still providing in-unit water heaters. It is an ADA accessible building. We are requesting that we have a trash chute in the basement of the building. We did have a comment on the height of the entrance and in our first go around and how we were going to do trash pickup. We've since addressed that. Mr. Cervais will hire a private company who will have adequate height to pull all the way in to remove the parking from the first floor. To the trash from the first floor. We do provide a scissor staircase with 2 means of egress. The elevator itself does run from the basement all the way to the rooftop, and on the rooftop we are providing some green space with some outdoor living room areas which will only be accessible during the daytime with a self-latching door at dusk. Which will allow the resident, and we're not providing any lighting for nighttime activities, so this will be just a daytime recreation area.
Okay, and I'm not being rude looking at my phone, I'm just looking at the site today in the background, so I'm trying to get a picture of what's there today versus what you're proposing. So excuse my looking at my phone in the background.
No, that's okay. I mean, we were just talking about the site itself today. The building right now, it's very run down. We have a retaining wall that's extremely damaged. By providing this new building, we're going to allow the building itself to become the retaining wall, and I think that's just going to provide for just a better design for the site, for the community. We were asked in our last meeting to provide a section of how we would impact the visibility, the sound, the height of the adjacent street buildings. This is our building as it would stand proposed now. We have the bulkhead here, which blocks 50% of the rear of the building from the next building. There's high, very, very heavy planting between the 2 buildings. And then the next building would be across the street from the adjacent street behind, and it would be considerably higher than what our building is.
Okay, and this, I keep focusing on the present building, and I'm sorry to do that, but it's going to help me contextualize it. The present building, it's a deep building, right?
Yes.
So it goes all the way back, right?
Yes.
It goes all the way back. Okay, so we're knocking down that entire building.
Yes.
To put this up. Gotcha. So can we just really quickly just help me understand the parking?
Sure.
Okay, good evening. Greg Cacciapoli, engineer on the project. Yeah, we were requested to do some maneuverability studies as part of the proposed building. In addition, we did reduce the number of spots to help promote maneuverability and eliminate encroachment into the outside of the property when maneuvering through the lot. We do have 188 spot proposed. There's 6 total. Each spot is code compliant now, 9 by 20 deep, and we do allow for enough backup space. The requirement is 24 feet. We now have 25.2. I've showed vehicles maneuvering out of the most challenging spots, which is the spot furthest in to the parking lot, and then the one closest to the street. So vehicles can now maneuver without crossing the property line, and we have enough spaces to match the amount of units proposed.
So it's how many units?
6.
And how many parking spots?
6.
6. And what if there's 2 people in the apartment?
There are 2-bedroom units currently.
Yeah.
I mean, the requirements, I thought the new zoning requirements are not requiring, or required per.
I understand about the
Right.
zoning requirements. I'm just asking about logistics. If there were 2 people and two people with 2 cars, where does the
Right.
extra person park?
Well, there also may be one person with 0 car. I mean, we can't,
Okay.
that's something that we really can't.
And I understand the
we
zoning
can try and
requirements,
manage.
but it's going to create a situation, whether it's zoning compliant or not.
We could also add a parking spot here, but there was a comment regarding us using any portion of the right-of-way as backup space. But if we could use in between the sidewalk and the property line, then there could be an additional space.
Listen, I know sometimes we think about complying to the zoning as far as we can go, and right? But sometimes we also think about the people that you're going to be renting to in that unit, and you want to make sure that, I mean, it's the law is the law, but I think I would compel you to think about how do you make sure that the people that rent from you have a place to park and they're not parking on the street, because can they park in the street, or yes or no? I don't think they can in the winter.
No, they can't in the winter. I mean, we can't, I mean, this is a new zoning that allows us.
I understand. Yeah, and I understand the new zoning. I get it. You're allowed to do it, is what you're telling me. And I agree. You are allowed to do that's the zoning. That's what the zoning is and what the town board has allowed. But I'm asking you to consider beyond the zoning requirements to what is actually logical versus what the law allows.
I mean, the lot is so tiny as it is, trying to get an entire parking lot and a lobby and mailboxes, ADA compliance in such a small lot.
Okay.
It's very tough.
Okay. Any questions or comments from board members?
Well, just to tap in on the parking as well, what you don't want to happen is in the winter, they can't park on that street, but then my concern is the merchants, and you would never want to take up merchant parking. You know, this is all to bring the merchants and living and do it together, and then have people parking, you know, in front of the merchants on, what's the street there? I can't think
Commerce or
Commerce,
yeah.
yeah. I've only lived here my whole life. But, you know, that's my concern, that I wouldn't want to see that happening.
Any other questions or comments?
I think that this plan is a vast improvement over the previous plan. I think that if I have 2 cars, I'm not going to rent. You're going to limit your renting pool, but you know, that's for them to decide. And your building is built to the rear property line? Okay, because you're like heavily treed in the back, and I'm glad to see that those mature trees are on the neighbor's property, so they'll be preserved to soften views of your building.
Okay, any other questions or comments from board members? So we know we have a number of items that the planning consultant drafted. I know you were reviewing them and got them at some point today, sounds like?
And they need to be seriously
Clarified. Oh, you guys have to work out what you're going to work out.
Yeah.
The drawings that were posted on Civic Clerk are not those drawings, so we update them. We need them
Okay.
based on those drawings.
Okay, so you need to work with the consultant and figure out what you want to do with those comments. I do think, and the reason why I was being a little bit stickler on the parking issue is I know when and if we get to a public hearing, it's going to be a conversation. And you had to be prepared to answer the question. And I don't know if answering the question saying, well, that's what the law allows is really the right question, right way to answer the question. Frankly, I think you have to think about the repercussions of having these units built and now we have an overflow of parking. We don't know where they're going to go. So.
I mean, these people can't even have company over that have cars. There's no place for them to park.
Right. I mean, I understand, I'm very sensitive to the fact, I live in a very small village. I myself personally own a building that doesn't have enough parking, and it's an old building, and, you know, I get, but I never get renters or accept renters that I know will impact my community negatively. So I'm pretty sure if Mr. Solis is looking to do a positive impact to the community, we can probably modify something to be an office and not a bedroom for some of the units to modify that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still an opportunity to.
I'm just being predictive of what the prevailing comments from the public is going to be, and
I
that's,
understand.
that's what it's going to be.
It's just physically impossible to add
Okay.
What is the existing building? It looked like it was commercial on the first floor, and what's that whole back area?
It's
Was offices or resident?
residential and slash, the back area on the first floor looks like offices.
Okay.
Historically, I think it was the Thornwood Post Office
Oh, was it?
years ago.
Oh, that's
Long,
interesting.
long time ago.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But I mean, the whole big area in the back, that looked like an apartment building to me. Yeah.
Yeah, the top.
So where did
is
they
a-
park, I wonder, the people who lived there? Because-
Today.
Yeah, there's no parking now.
On the right side, there's like a sliver of
They're using the
pavement.
easement as parking.
Okay.
So,
Oh, yeah, what is the easement for?
Sanitary sewer.
And it's
So you really
town
can't,
line?
it's a town line
Okay.
for it. So you really can't build a structure on it.
Right.
But we think it can be used for landscaping, and we think an entrance isn't really a structure. And so the idea of not having people walk through the parking, but being able to walk through the outside also gives the opportunity for some landscaping, and that's what we're proposing.
And Mr. Sorais would acknowledge that any kind of disruption that the
It's on him.
town has, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So the one comment that we agree with Mr. Cleary on is that it may be appropriate for this board to declare itself as a lead agent or circulate
Yeah, we're gonna do
an
that.
intent to do that, so at least we can move forward while some of these things get clarified.
We were just about to get to that, so you beat me to that punch. Okay, so before we do that, one more. I keep doing this. This is my routine with the board. Questions or comments? No. Okay. So with that being said, we can make a decision or not to express that this board would be the lead agent for this particular application here tonight. But that's the sentiment of the board, and if a board member would like to make a motion, we can entertain the motion. Any
A
questions?
motion for what?
Lead agency.
Oh, okay.
See.
I'll make that motion, that the planning board serve as the lead agency for this project.
Motion by Eileen,
Second.
second by Joan. Walter?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Joan?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
And an aye for me. And that's it. I think we're good to go. on
So
this
one other
one. Okay,
comment
sorry.
request, if you don't mind, for it. There will be the need for some variances, and that will require a trip to the zoning board. I'm not going to suggest that we go right now for it. When do you think it might be the appropriate time for us to go, or when does your planner think it's the right time for us to go? Just so we have it from a scheduling standpoint.
So you hear, we had some confusion with plans, so we've got to sort out the plans to make sure we're denying the right variances, so not that.
Okay.
We'll sort tomorrow, and then we'll coordinate and make sure we've got the right plans, and then address things.
Okay, that's fine.
Anything else?
So we may come back, just to give you a quick update, maybe to get a ticket to go to the zoning board sooner rather than later, but we'll have that conversation.
Yeah.
While the notice of intent to serve is being circulated, et cetera,
Yeah.
because we're ready to try to move this as best as we can.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, and next up finally is 17 Bruce Lane, regrading of rear yard to create usable recreation space for the homeowner. Application Steep Slope SS 25-07, 17 Bruce Lane, section block lot number is 112.18-3-10, zone R10, owner Andre Nagomi. Excuse me if I didn't say that correctly. Applicant and engineer, A&E Professional Engineers, PC. Welcome to the board. Just state your name, all that for the record when you get a chance. Okay, just do me a favor. Can you just make sure you grab the mic and speak into it so people from TV land can hear into it?
My name is Peter White, W-H-I-T-E. I represent A&E Professional Engineers, Roslyn, New York, and we're working with the owner of 17 Bruce Lane.
Are we picking him up with the mic, do we think? You are. Okay. We actually have people who watch us at home, so you're on TV now, so we want to make sure that they hear you.
Listen, it's good to see you guys
That's
again.
better.
I've been here before.
That's much better.
And I
Yes.
hope everybody is well.
Thank you.
So, what I've got on the board right now is a survey of 17 Bruce Lane. And basically, the way the property is oriented, that's not working. The way the property is oriented, this is Bruce Lane. He is on the easterly side of it, on the downhill side. Truthfully, if you walk through this door and go about 1,000 feet, you'd walk into his backyard. He's on a hill that runs from Columbus Avenue into a valley and back up to the back end of the cemetery over by the Taconic State Parkway. He is on the downhill side of Bruce Lane, and at the time that his property was constructed, or his house was constructed, the contractor basically took a pile of rocks and boulders and spread them out in the backyard without really changing the elevation of the yard. These rocks didn't lend themselves very well to the construction of a retaining wall. They're kind of like very large basketballs. You just can't really do much of anything with them. And what I'll show you, we had to use a historical image. This is his house. This is Bruce Lane over here. This is his front yard. This is in an easterly direction. And you can see the boulders that were left behind in the rear yard, lending it to be kind of useless.
And that house was probably built in 1962, and it's probably been a steep lot ever since then.
Actually, the truth of the matter is 45 years ago, I excavated two properties on the street that is to the west of this, directly behind the cemetery. And that property also contained a lot of these large round boulders. We took them away because it was on the uphill side, but that seems to be what the entire hill is made out of.
So what is to the, and I know the answer to the question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If we had an image of what's to the left of that wall, there's homes, right?
There's another street down here, but there's also an area in here that seems to be a dedicated zone between the properties below and the properties to the west. And his property line is right about here.
So what does that mean, a dedicated zone?
It seems to be an area that is just woods and vegetation, about 50 feet or so wide before you get to the next series of properties.
But it's not no man's land. Somebody owns it, correct?
I don't know. I don't know if the town owns it. I don't know if one thing I do know is he doesn't own it, and it seems as though it runs all the way through.
Well, I think we should know that though, right? Before we.
Well, at the moment we don't know that, but again,
Let's
the
find
bottom
out.
line is this whole area behind him is basically a wooded area.
Yeah, let's find out who owns those woods if we can.
I will.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So going back to this. I was working with Bud Nicoletti. He asked me to provide for him a steep slope survey. This is the steep survey that was done, showing exactly what the area looks like, the percentage of slope going down. But it runs from here continuously down to the rear property line. And what we did is we designed a series of 3 retaining walls. These are mesa retaining walls. I've actually been here with them before. There are 3 of them. Each one of them is under 6 feet tall, to change the grade of the property to 181 and 180 and kind of just flatten this area out and give them a rear yard from here to here. There's a fence on top of this, and these are 3 separate walls.
Okay. So what is, do we know, is it, and I forget because I looked at this stuff, but is it, what's the grade of the property? Is it excessively steep? Is it moderate? What those categories?
All 3 categories, it's about 3,700 square feet of regulated steep slopes, and the total drop is 10 feet or so.
Okay. But is it excessively steep? Is it
There's a little bit of everything, all 3 categories.
all 3 categories? I gotcha. Okay.
And basically, if you add up the total of the 3 walls, about 18 feet of elevation in order to get him to meet the elevation at the rear of his house, which is the 181 elevation, 180 elevation.
Okay, so you're gonna have a total of 3 walls.
All 3 walls added together, if you put them on top of each other, would be just short of 18 feet. It would be about 17 feet.
And what is, we had, similar to the other application, I'll just ask the question, what is the landscape and plan between the walls? Is there any?
You have approximately 6 to 7 feet between the walls.
So is there any vegetation between those walls, or just going to be?
No, it's going to be a grassed area. We left it open down here on the end so you can get in and service it, cut the grass, and maintain it. The fence line is on the top along here. There is a side wall here, and on this side there isn't a side wall because this is graded down to allow access into the area where.
Okay. So when you're down below, that's that house on West Stevens Avenue. They're looking up, they see woods. We don't know who owns that property. We'll figure that out.
And like I said, it's pretty much a very dense wooded area.
Somebody has to own the property, though, right? So
there's no question in my mind, although, like I said, from what we can see of it so far, this dense wooded area continues to run all the way along behind all of the houses on that side of Bruce Lane.
Okay, so can we find out who owns the property, and can
Sure.
we find out how deep those dense woods are? Because what I want to figure out is what that owner down below on West Stevens Avenue is going to look up and see in the winter as well as in the summer.
We can do that. We can take some photographs and demonstrate. I did this with you in Chappaqua Point Place when we did that one.
Mm-hmm.
Same difference.
Yeah. Any other questions from board members?
Does this require you bring in fill or take out fill?
It's, what happens with a mesa wall is they have a large amount of crushed stone and material that has to go behind them as part of the construction. So by bringing that material in, that starts to create the material necessary to create the backyard. Some material will have to be brought in, topsoil or whatever, but the bulk of what comes in is item 4 and crushed stone. A mesa wall doesn't have any cement in between it. It has stone behind it and a geogrid, and they kind of act like a giant dry well. Water gets in behind them, drains down through the stone, and eventually out through the wall.
Okay.
Okay, one last time, any questions or comments from board members? So I know you have some notes from our consultant on this application. Right, they need to be addressed before we even go further.
And we need to hear from Dave as well.
More from Dave. So good presentation and good compelling application. I do think you need to dig into those 2 things that I asked for, and which.
And you have them. That's not a problem. We'll get that information for you.
And then once you dot the i's and cross the t's with town and town staff, then we'll see you back. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Do you want to tell the board, or you want me to? The rest of them.
Eileen already knows.
All right. So.
Do we have the mic on?
Is the mic off?
you want me to turn that off?
Yeah.
Want to adjourn the meeting?
Meeting's adjourned. Any opposed?